Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome to what I think is the most requested game that I've ever had on this channel. It's a Protoss versus Zerg here on Grassland between Classic in the bottom right as our red Protoss player, and in the blue playing for Team Basilisk Gaming, it is Serral. Zerg versus Protoss on Grassland, the most requested game I have ever had on this channel. People kept asking me, Harstem, what's up with that? Serral versus Classic, that's what we want to see, and specifically the game on Grassland. This is from the G8. It was played, well, a little bit over a month ago, or perhaps even more than over a month ago at this point already. Like a month and 3 weeks or something like that. And people kept asking me. I'm like, alright, let's see what all the fuss is about. So we have a Stargate going up in the main base here for Classic. That doesn't seem too revolutionary in my opinion. Serral just opening up with a very standard triple hatch play here. Serral, of course, the king of the standard. You know, he is the man that he doesn't invent the standard, but he plays it so well that he might as well have invented it. He's so familiar with it. He knows what responses he wants, and he executes them with just the best accuracy out of anyone that I've ever seen. Oracle now halfway done. We have no scout really coming in out of Serral, who keeps his Overlord neatly tucked on this pervert pillar, from which he looks out over the Protoss base, sees pro production, sees a third unit from the gateway. These are all little bits of information that definitely do aid the Zerg player. There are 4 links out only. This is a risk. If these 2 adepts do end up finishing, they could potentially deal some damage. They're not going to end up finishing. Serral felt very comfortable with the very low number of links here, which is kind of wild, honestly, because, like I said, it's a very low number of links. It's only 3. Now starts adding a couple more. The first Oracle should be on the way out. It's already out. Yeah, where is it? I was thinking, oh, he used it to clear the Overlord here on the high ground. Cute little move. I'm sorry for missing that. Did manage to supply block Serral at least for a little bit. 58 out of 58. We see 5 larvae available, as well as a bit of cash. Lots of, actually lots of gas in the bank already here for Serral. Does not have an Evo chamber quite yet, as the double adept shade should not finish up here. Now it's going to get cancelled indeed. Double Oracle now moving in, ignoring all of the queens, will take out 3 workers instantly, taking a lot of damage on one of those 2 Oracles though. That is a big deal, because it means it's going to be much harder here for Classic to come back in with those Oracles and deal some more damage. Yes, the initial fly-in is important, but this much damage for 3 work kills, not sure how worth it that really is. Forge and Twilight now on the way. Serral with an extraordinary amount of gas in the bank here for the early game. 200 gas already, 5 minutes into the game. Isn't really doing anything with it. Almost makes you wonder if perhaps he wanted to rush out a +1 or had some plans of maybe going for a queen push of sorts. It doesn't seem to be the case. One of the telltale signs of a queen push, of course, is the added extra extractors really early on. We're talking 430 or so. And these are, well, these extractors are starting 5 minutes and 20 seconds into the game, as one Oracle taking a lot of damage. That's the second Oracle that has taken a significant amount of damage now. Both of these Oracles just at 7 HP remaining from that real life. Of course, the shields do come back. So double adept will keep this third base secure. There's a Templar Archives. I think that just got scouted here by Serral. It definitely did. Serral with a cheeky little scout, which is kind of important. Getting to see that Templar Archives gives you a lot of information. First of all, it tells you that most likely, if it's this quick, there's going to be either an Archon drop or a quick rush into Storm. And given that this map is Grassland, I'd almost say that's going to be Storm. Fast fort base, and kind of another clue here that Serral can work with. Saying, hey, if I'm taking a fort base this fast and I have a Templar Archives, most of the time it's going to be straight Storm. Yeah, there we go. Straight Storm coming out of Classic, who still has that Blink research going up as well. So an Oracle just kind of flying around. This is the only Oracle that has a significant amount of HP remaining. It's going to lose a little bit of that now by flying into those queens. Fort base for Serral is actually relatively late, as his worker count is only 72, trying to get up to 76. 6 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. That is not entirely brilliant. Double robotics facilities as well coming down now. The setup that we see Classic going for is extremely strong against ground-based armies. And so far as the eye can see in this game, Serral is opting for a ground-based army. This would seriously struggle against any type of airplay though. The moment mutas pop out on the map, you just don't quite have the Stalker force. I mean, there are 6 gateways, which is nice. There's 3 more on the way, but attacking straight into Storm means that you're not going to have Archons. And Archons are brilliant against Mutas. They deal well with Lynx. They deal well with Mutas, which are going to be the main unit in case of a Muta army. All of your gas going into Muta, and then the leftover minerals usually going into those Lynx. We do have a Spire going down, but that is after the Infestation Pit. This smells to me not like a Muta transition at the 9-minute mark, but it smells to me like a transition into very fast Broodlords, which is something that Zero, of course, is known for. As Classic right now has just a solid setup, and it seems like Zero kind of wants to chrono boost himself into the late game here. Just kind of speed things up and say, hey, if I can get that quick hive, if I can get the Spire done with the Greater Spire before you do a major push out, that would be fantastic. It feels like Classic is not really planning on doing any type of major push out right now. To me, it seems like Classic just wants to expand to a 5th base at an extraordinary pace. That can definitely be said. This is an extraordinary pace that Classic is taking here. Has he scouted the extra gases? No, he hasn't. So he is taking some freedoms that perhaps he's not allowed really to take. As a pushing could have come from layer attack. I'm not quite sure if Classic is aware now. Classic has very little scouting information. Very little scouting information. As Zero now realizing that, yes, Classic has been quite greedy behind all of this. If this was a serious push, which, let's face it, this wasn't. There was no Banes here at all. If this was a serious push with, let's say, 30, 40 Banes, I think Classic wouldn't have just been in a lot of trouble. I think he might have just been dead. And I think Zero is now just acutely aware of that as well. Greater Spire starts. There's nothing he can do about it. You can't decide to not go for a timing, and then while you realize you should have gone for one, still go for a timing. That is not how StarCraft 2 works. Zero, yeah, it's not going to be too pleased here, I think, with his decisions. Although he is fantastic in the late game, of course, so doesn't mind getting there this quickly. Classic now planning on moving out on the map, has 8 Templar, 25 Stalkers and 4 Immortals. Stalkers don't necessarily add very much to this army, a little bit of tanking. This is an extremely open area. It's the micro by Zero on those Banes is, as always, phenomenal. Stalkers dealing quite well with that top flank. There's not enough Banes, but now they're gonna connect with, I think, 7 out of 8 of them Templar. That means that the next round of Banelings is going to be extremely efficient, or well, not efficient, extremely effective. There's only 2 Archons remaining. Big blink forward here to catch those Queens. That's going to be 2-3 Queens that will get taken out before the fight. That is a big deal. There's 14 Banelings remaining with 10 more on the way. Can we get a big storm? Yes, we can. Yes, indeed we can. Nice little pickup there on the Templar. I think there's one more storm perhaps in there. Classic does need to be careful though. It's so easy to keep going when it feels like things are going well. It's so important to realize when your push has ended. So far, I don't think that is quite the case. I'd love to see this extra creep in the back just being denied as well. But the moment this creep disappears, life is going to be quite nice here for Classic. Classic really needs to try and deny the creep here towards the bottom side though. I think that would be super valuable. Ling run by being set up. This is not going to be a Ling run by, but these are, I think, are going to morph into Banes. I'd be surprised if Zero just walks in with them. Oh, I'm surprised. This is a weird move, especially because +2 is already done. Links with Adrenal are obviously quite good, but a Ling run by is fairly easy to deal with. One Templar now under some heavy fire. Prism was there. Does not quite get the pickup though. As an Immortal gets rallied across the map, it's gonna start shooting. This is the snipe of a lifetime. If he would have gotten the Ravager, this would have been some suicidal James Bond mission. Just right-clicking on the Ravager from across the map. Probably was just a miss rally, but boy, it would have been great. First 6 Broodlords now on the way. This is an extremely easy map to defend your initial 6 bases. As you can see, this is the 6th base. All you need is a Spore Wall over here and a minor Spore Wall in this area. So there's 2 major attacking points right now on this map into 6 bases. Zero hasn't quite established this line yet. So you see he's pushed back a bit further. He was afraid of another push. Now that he's set up with the Brutes, I do believe he wants to push forward into this area. It's a very positional game that we're going to be playing as a Prism enters the main base and Zealots without Zealot legs start slicing some of these drones down. At the same time, we have a split off with the Stalkers moving towards the bottom side. Upgrades are continuing here for Classic as well, who is going to lose quite a few of those Stalkers. Little bit sloppy play out of out of the South Korean Protoss player here, who hasn't expanded in over 4 minutes. He had an extremely quick 5th, and is now struggling to get a 6th base up. Well, he isn't struggling, he simply isn't trying. Triple carriers in production. We have no air weapon upgrades yet. I feel like that is a little bit late. Oh. Talk dirty to me, Classic. Tempest? You spicy, spicy man. Holy crap. Whew. That is something else. That really is something else. There are not many players in this world that look at a situation like this versus Serral and say, hey, Tempest, that's what I need. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the Tempest. I'm very glad to see this. The Tempest has, especially on Grassvan. Now, the Tempest... What is the point of the Tempest in these fights? The Tempest wants a game in which nothing happens. The Tempest wants a game in which 2 players are sitting back and relaxing. So this is the goal that Classic needs to try and achieve in the next minute and a half while the Tempest are coming out. The less is happening on the map, the better for the Tempest. Because with complete attention to the Tempest should always beat the Zerg. You have the range advantage. However, the Zerg always has the ability to run around, take out cannons on the side bases. Tempest are awful at splitting up. They're terrible just in very many situations. When you're moving around, they're very vulnerable. They really kill things slowly. So you need a stable situation, and you need a stable situation for an extremely long time. You need a stable situation for 5 to 10 minutes. And then Tempest can push your opponent back. But even then, the moment you make a mistake in your control, the game, well, it couldn't end, but you can just lose your Tempest. It's very easy to throw a lead that you have gathered through Tempest. So this is important to note. Ooh, this is bad warping. Holy crap. Just warped in 12 zealots. Mars, I have a surprise for you. We're warping you right onto the minefield. Sure? What was that? Look at 12 zealots into 10 banelings. Pretty decently sized error there, as there is 2 prisms being produced at a time. And we're going up to 5 Tempest right now. The upgrade speed here on the air weapons, in my opinion, is much, much too slow. We don't have an air armor upgrade coming in yet either. I think that Classic is... he has some great ideas, but so far the execution, or the speed of execution at least, isn't quite there yet. I'd love to see a slightly bigger wall in this bottom part as well. I'm loving the double Templar though. I think this is a phenomenal call. This is the correct call. I think this is a call that we don't see often enough against Zerg. Just having these Templar spread, basically how people used to play back in the day against these Terran armies, when you just have a Templar at every base with a bunch of cannons. Now, there is one unit that can ruin all of this. Actually, there are 2 units that can ruin this, and those are the Lurker and the Ultralisk. The Lurker and the Ultralisk are units that do not care so much about static defense. The Lurker cares a little bit, because it requires some time to outrange the cannons, but the Ultra generally just doesn't care very much about cannon defenses. It just walks in there, it kills everything. If you don't have Immortals, you can't deal with Ultras. But as long as Ultras and Lurkers aren't out in large numbers on the map, this base is completely secure against anything that Serral can throw at Classic right now. Classic once again just right-clicking on that hive. Not entirely sure about the move. He's now getting his Prism Speed, the Gravitic Drive upgrade. What are the air upgrades for Serral? They're actually kind of mediocre, working I think of just a single Spire, yeah. We have double Cybernetics Core, of course, for our good friend Classic, who's just sitting back and not using these Tempests necessarily as an aggressive tool, but as a tool to secure a lot of bases. I'm loving the cannon walls here. I'm in love with those cannon walls. 12 cannons, seismic spines are on the way right now for Serral. So we see Serral wanting to get into something different here. Needs to get rid of this Ravager Ling Roach Force as well, which is going to be practically useless in his army. Doesn't have any Vipers on the map yet, as we see the first 2 finally in production. 97 larvae available. That is a lot of larvae that are available, isn't it? That is a lot of larvae available. Link's now gonna be taking out these Stalkers. These Stalkers, of course, don't want to get a good trade. Oh, here comes a Storm Drop. Hey, this is something you don't see every day. Cyril definitely didn't see it every day. He's getting kind of... he's like, what the hell is this? It's like there's like 2 storm drones just running around killing drones. Now, this looks very fun, but you gotta think not so much about the direct damage that you're dealing, but the actual efficiency. So these moves, they need to be efficient. Now, killing 22 workers is kind of big. That's... 1100 minerals, but at the same time I think 2 Templar went down, 5 Zealots went down. If you lose another Prism or so, the trade is going to be fairly even, and usually gas is also a more valuable resource than minerals are. So yes, it's real cool to kill drones, but you can't throw away Zealots at the same time and pretend like these are efficient trades, because then they aren't. If your plan is to go super efficient, I think dropping Templar and taking out drones can be quite a useful tool, definitely. But be very careful. Be very, very careful. It's so easy to throw away a lead of 2-3k minerals by just sending in 10-12 Zealots at a time. Like this type of move, this feels good because you feel like you're doing things. But very often, you're just giving your opponent free resources. This is something that Protoss players need to be very aware of. The double prism flies in, and I shouldn't really go in here, shouldn't. I really shouldn't, as we have a Zealot run by at the same time. Brootlords are going to deal with this. A couple of spines might end up falling, so 1 prism does get taken out. You just see that Classic is controlling the pace of the game. He's completely uninterested right now in doing anything else. He just doesn't really care. There's a single Oracle that's staying at home. Would love to see some Revelation being used as an observer is moving forward here. Coming faster, can they do something? Cyril not in position to do anything, it feels like. These prisms are still flying around. Zealot run by being set up on the top side. It's going to walk straight into those Lynx and Roaches. Is that going to be a good trade? Only 1 Roach attack, only 1 range attack here. No carapace upgrades except for +1 as well. So these Zealots could be quite powerful. This Stormer is still going ham. Don't really want to recall that. Don't think 150 gas is worth a recall. Indeed, it's just going to end up dying. Resources lost overall, 18k on the side of Cyril versus, well, actually it's 19k versus 22, practically. Let's just put it like that. So about a 3k difference here in resources lost. That's not the end of the world, especially because Classic hasn't been trading yet. How do we know that he didn't have the intention yet to trade? Classic has a very different plan from most other Protoss players. When we look at Protoss players, usually in the PvZ late game, what they want to do is fight the entire time. And they're looking for weaknesses on the Zerg side. Well, the Zerg is trying to, get a lot of drones out, get as much mining as possible, then kind of take it from there. Classic, on the other hand, said, hey, I'm going to get a very high worker count. I'm going to mine as many minerals as quickly as possible while never truly committing with my main army. His main army is garbage. It's only good in defensive setups. While all of this is happening, he says, I'm just going to harass. I want to still trade somewhat efficient until I get to the place where I have mined out 6-7 bases, and these island bases, well, they're not really island bases because, well, they're not surrounded by water or by something else, by air, I guess. But still, it feels like these kind of neutral bases, I guess, might be a better term. These 2 neutral bases that are on the map, this is where Classic wants to fight for. And at that point, once you start fighting for that, he wants to get to a very, very low probe count. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see maybe 6-7 workers from here, 6-7 workers from here, a couple from here, just all being sent to their death right now. That is not because he hates probes, although he might. We're just not sure about that. Don't know about his policy position on probes. It is just because he wants to get a better and bigger army. You can't get a big army that fights Zerg up if you have 90 workers in the bank. So we're seeing a lot of infrastructure being added as well. You see that infrastructure? 9 Stargates are up right now. 2 robotics facilities, 10 gates. Classic very well aware of what he wants to do. I'm almost tempted to say that this move out right now here might be a mistake. I think this is not correct quite yet, as 2 Templar are going to fall. The worker count is simply too high. I think he needs to get rid of more workers before he should engage into his opponent. He can fight, like I said, in defensive positions, but he currently cannot fight in aggressive position. This Roach Ravager army, by the way, is doing a phenomenal job at just stopping all these. I don't understand the hyper-focus here on right-clicking lairs and hatcheries and hives. Like, he's been trying to right-click this hive for 5 years now, and it hasn't done anything yet at all. It's just, harassment is great, but harassment also needs to achieve something. Multitasking just to have things happening in 2 points at the same time are not very useful if it's going to be a complete split map scenario in which both players will mine an even amount. We now see a move towards the main base. That could be a possibility here for Classic to actually do something, as this prism finally is going to end up dying. We see the carriers now perhaps trying to aim that top side. Okay, more probes are being sacrificed. I still think the pacing in which these probes are being sacrificed, I think it's a little bit too low. We were at a situation where it was 19k to 22. Right now it's 20k to 27k. So this is really the only thing that matters. If we're expecting a full split map scenario in which both players get an even amount of bases, then the resources lost is the most important tab. Not going to be keeping it open the entire time because it looks very boring. And also because I want to see things like an Ultra Cavern go up, of course. That is a big deal. That shows that Serral wants this game to become less stable. Serral does not want a game in which both players are sitting on top of their static defense. He's saying, hey, you've been the one in charge of the pacing of this game. Now it's my turn for a little bit. It's gonna get some ultras out, perhaps. We have the shield weapons level 3 on the way. We have the air armor level 3 on the way. Serral, meanwhile, already has 3-3, despite starting later with double upgrades. Has it quite a bit quicker, at least. Killed his own Banes. Nice try, Serral. God, even gods can bleed. That's beautiful to see. I love it when Serral makes mistakes like that. It makes me feel much more human. Makes him feel much more human and thus closer to my species. These little move outs, despite them being non-committed move out, are still kind of risky, and I'm not a huge fan of it, as losing this Archon for free is also a weird decision in my opinion. I mean, you know you're gonna lose it. Why don't you just keep it in this prism? I don't quite understand. You can run this Corruptor around for a very long time, as Oracle will need to use Revelation here. Let's get a big hit off. We see a, what is that? 2 Templar, 2 High Templar, 2 DTs. It's just a very weird setup right now that our friend is working with. I've never quite seen something like that. Does he have Blink on DT? I don't think he does. So we saw an attack here on the bottom side. I think soon a couple of ultras are going to be mixed in with those types of attacks. That makes cannons so much less powerful. Once there's a single ultra is so big. DT's now being taken out. I mean, I'm loving these moves out of Classic. In, you know, just looking at it, I think it's cool. He's trying to make this game a bit more active, but I don't really see the value in sniping a lair. I really don't. If you end up losing 900 minerals and 300 gas for it, that was a good trade for the Zerg player. Resources lost. Like, nothing has happened when it comes to main engagement. It's just been Classic throwing away units for free. And this looks really cool, the double prism. It's like, oh, double prism harass, this is great. And don't get me wrong, it is pretty great, but it also seems extremely non-viable as a long-term plan. The moment Serral gets this top base up and mining, I believe that Classic is going to be in a world of trouble. I really do believe that. Now, Greater Spire is going to get taken out. That is nice. That's going to need to be rebuilt. We see that being rebuilt, as well as a new Spire on the way. We have Lynx now popping in over here, trying to deal with those Zealots, as Queens and Ravagers are also coming back. This might have been an okay trade, but even then, it wasn't like a great trade. You lose, what, 7 Zealots, and, well, I actually think he only killed a Spire, so another crappy trade. Yeah, this is just not been great. This has not been great at all. We now see these DTs, they're gonna pop out, maybe take out a Spore or something. No, not yet. Like, he's looking for drone kills, but just pick him up. Like, why won't you just pick him up? He has the prism there. Like, they're gonna die 100% if you drop him. I don't understand this at all. Taking out 4 drones, losing 3 Templar and 2 DTs is simply not worth it. Like, can't he do math? He's just losing in the resources lost this entire time. He's causing a lot of chaos, but if you're not using that chaos to get something done, you need something. Like, causing chaos is great, but you need to utilize that chaos. And it's not like the chaos remains in Serral's head 5 minutes after the DT is gone. It's not like he's sitting there shivering in terror. Oh, the Dark Templar and the High Templar killing 4 drones. It's like, no, Serral looks at that from a mathematical perspective. It's like, well, I lost 4 drones. You lost, what is it, like 550 gas. Hey, that's a good trade for me. It's like sending another invitations. Again, 2 Templar and 2 DTs have been invited to dinner with 4 drones. And Classic looks at the invitation like, oh, looks good. Look here again. 7, 8 zealots. And what do they achieve? Even if they kill the 3 spies and 10 lings, that is simply a bad trade. So far though, this top base is being denied. And as long as that top base is being denied and this base is mining, Classic is going to be out mining his opponent. And if that is the case, then all of these moves are fine. And it's causing a delay in the mining here for Serral. But I think Classic cannot hold this bottom base himself either if he's being so active with the main army on the map. He is adding in more and more air units right now. This air army is getting significantly bigger. As the Oracle moves forward, we get a microbial shroud cast on the ground. It's a beautiful animation, by the way. I love the way that looks. I also love the way it looks on the queens. It's real nice. Freaking nice, actually. Love that. 11 probes get taken out. Another 10 Zealot Warp in right now. It's gonna try and forces a cancel here on this hatchery. This is just not worth it. I'm gonna keep repeating myself. This is simply not worth it. We're now down 11k resources. It was 3k earlier. About 20k resources ago, it was 3k. Now it's 11, 12k. That is not a good thing. That is a bad progression here for Classic. That is a very bad progression here for Classic. Now he is planning on taking the topside base. And he has taken it right now. Or he is taking it. He has mined a little bit from the bottom side as well already. There's like, what, 600-700 gas missing per geyser. There's quite a few minerals missing. So maybe that's the plan here. Saying, hey, if I mine like 1k gas and no, that's gas you don't get, then I completely focus on the topside base. That's interesting. Now the lurkers are showing up. That's going to make things much more complex. Serral so far has kept the game very simple for Classic. And Classic has kept the game very simple for himself. But with the addition of lurkers, the defense becomes much more complex. Because you need a lot of attention to deal with lurkers. And when you have Tempest in your army, attention is a resource that is more important than anything else. Remember what I said about the Tempest? They're only good if a game is stable. And if a game is stable for longer periods of time. Right now the game hasn't been stable for the past 3-4 minutes. We've had too many interactions. We had too many times where Classic had to give up a base or had to truly move his entire main army over to defend somewhere and then lose something at the same time. He's struggling setting up this next base and it's painful to watch. Oracles are going to come and help out right now. We'll need to piss off at some point as this base does go up. Classic at the same time going... I don't understand how Classic is planning on keeping this base without cannons, without Templar, without any type of defensive force, while simultaneously denying this. Like, this seems like a completely non-viable plan. You need to wait until the cannons are up. You're gonna need to leave maybe, what, an Archon, 2-3 Immortals, and I want to say at least a Templar or 2 as well, to deal with any type of run-bys. Now, there are 3 lurkers. Don't forget, Broodlords can also just attack this. So there's just so many different types of threats that you can go for. I'm loving this Zealot run-by though. This hit at a perfect time. Denying the mining there. Although not super important right now, because there's still plenty of money in the bank for Serral. I can kind of understand giving up some Zealots for that. I can kind of understand that as Oracles are being chased away. This base is now up, because if you're denying mining here, and you can quickly mine this topside base, that actually is very valuable. And although in the resources lost that trade looked bad, I appreciate that trade. Every minute that a base gets denied, that is 800 minerals that aren't being mined. Don't forget that. 800 minerals that aren't being mined. So you're basically saving those for later. And if you're planning on still taking the base later on, you can take a bad trade. You know, on the back of that. It's like, it's a loan, basically. Oh, there goes the mothership. There goes the mothership. Minus 400, double time warps get cast. It's gonna make it impossible for Classic to do anything on the map in the next few minutes. The mothership is the only reason why Protoss is allowed on the map. Having units being invisible is a very freaking big deal. This is an interesting recall down. And I think Serral should send the Broodlords to deal with this. I'm surprised that Serral didn't do that. That is actually a blunder here by him. Because what are you gonna do here, Serral? You'll lose the base already. You knew you're gonna lose that. You were not gonna be in time. Sending the Lurker Ling army towards this top side means you're gonna lose a lot of Lings. Well, the Broodlords would have been capable of dealing with that for free. You know you just killed the mothership, and that means that another recall is not going to be available for quite a while, because there's only a single recall on all Nexi. There is a global cooldown on that. Cyril there with I think that is a blunder, because this is a lot of cash. This is what? 600, 900, 1200. There's about 1650 minerals in static defense. And then you have the Nexus. So that's a 2k investment here, a little bit more than 2k out of Classic that you could have probably taken out for free with your Broodlords. Instead, you lost the base on the bottom side, got nothing in return. So despite that, in my mind, being a bad move by Classic, it ended up working out. If Cyril had responded to that appropriately, this would have been a negative trade once more here for Classic, who knows a thing or two, as we can see, about negative trades, as he's down 15k, and Cyril massively in the lead. Prism still flying around and losing money. I'm not happy with this. This is a nice little run by. I do like this. Like I said, trying to take out this base continuously while keeping this alive is good. I almost feel like having a secondary army just with the sole purpose of running by is definitely worth it at this point for Classic. Put your ground units in there. Give it like, what, 3 Immortals, put in an Archon or 2, 5-6 Zealots, 2-3 Templar and an Observer so you can deal with any potential neural parasites. And you should be absolutely fine. You can always recall the army back to the mothership if you feel like you need it immediately. Here comes a Purification Novas. Not cool. It's gonna hit 1. That's something. Tempest moving way too far forward. I think that was a move command accidentally. Right next to the Broodlords. Bit of a blunder there coming out of Classic. As this base once more is gonna get cleared. And there's nothing dealing with this top side. Look at this. These gases are being mined from. We have a Zealot run by now heading in towards the main. I don't understand this once more. If you can maybe clear these queens, that could potentially be worth it. Or the spores. Okay, we now have probes. I think these are being given up on purpose. Classic seems to want an even bigger army than he already has. As he's finishing up his upgrade, he's going to go to the 3-3-3-3-3. As everyone basically has all the upgrades possible, except for... No, there's even Observer Speed. I guess we don't have Thermal Lance quite. But everything else pretty much... And no Anti-Impulse Crystals. I think most others are there. No Glaives either, actually. Oh, we're missing quite a few. Okay, finally Cyril moves in here. He should have done this last time his bottom base got cancelled, because the investment for Classic here is so much bigger than the investment for Cyril on the bottom side. Cyril's just investing a single hatch. Now, he might end up losing a couple of Spore Crawlers during this, but you can usually defend those spores quite well with Infestor, Corruptor, Viper. It's hard. It's really hard for TOS to push into Spore Walls, even if the Brutes aren't there. I'm surprised once more that Cyril decides to pull back. I mean, there's plenty of cannons around right now, and I think maybe with a super battery, is that gonna be enough? Links are really powerful. I sometimes do underestimate them. Super battery not being activated doesn't help either. The lurkers now are gonna burrow, and this is going to get cleaned up as the brutes move towards the bottom side. And with this base dying, that is a lot of resources that will end up falling here. Look at that. We're about to reach a 20k difference. 20k. In the units lost. This has been... It's been a nice game out of Classic. Yeah, he's had some good ideas. I love the double prism. But I think he just forgot about, you know, what is important. He needs to deny this base. Desperately needs to deny it. And he also needs to mine this. Just denying this isn't good enough. You need to deny it while you're mining. That is the entire point. You can do one of the two. They need to happen both at the same time. This looked like a fun storm. Oh, he dealt some damage here on the brutes and on the corruptors. It only cost you a Templar. Yes, but it did cost you a Templar and it did cost you a prism. If you have one move like this, it's not the end of the world. But right now, Classic has been making moves like this the entire game, it feels like. He's been getting cost inefficient trades this entire time. This hive must have absorbed over 30 zealots at this point. How many zealots have we lost? 182 zealots have gone down in this game. I wonder how many this hive is responsible for. I really wonder. The kill count on the hive said 0. Not sure why the hive has a kill count in general, but it does usually. But in reality, it is responsible for a lot of death and despair. As these two bases seem to just be neutral, we can now start to see the difference, by the way, here. As Serral continues mining from at least one base. This is such a Serral move as well, leaving one base in the back. Just kind of unmined, so it's easy to mine later on in the game. Classic has no such thing. So we can see the difference right now in the mineral preservation throughout the game. Definitely being in favor here of Serral. Now, I think Serral is aware of all of this as well. And that's what's such a big deal. On top of that, dealing with Serral's army is no joke. This is not a walk in the park. Just straight up attacking into this army. It's going to be impossible almost for Classic. Classic actually doesn't even feel comfortable enough anymore to fight. I think what Classic perhaps is missing in this army is an Archon or two as well. I really think Archons are so freaking valuable to have in a composition like this. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I believe it. Your goal with a Tempest army is never going to be to directly engage with your opponent anyway, right? So you could say, well, Archons will just die against the Brute Lords, but the moment the Brute Lords are the Tempest are just there for the Brute Lords most of the time. And your Immortals are also going to be useless, obviously. Your Disruptors will be kind of bad. Your Templar will suck if the Brute Lords are shooting the entire time. You want to... The main reason why you get Tempest is to shoot Brutes. If you're shooting Brutes, you're having a good time. Right now, we're not shooting anything. So the Tempest are not being used how they should be used. Salad run by here towards the top side. Let's take a look at the resources lost again. We've almost reached our 20k mark. As Serral's trying his best to lose this fight by sending in individual links. Just gonna clean it up in the end. So we now have the last 10 probes being sent towards the bottom side. Classic isn't hiding that he wants to get rid of them. Oh, this is a nice move. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I'd love to see some more aggressive poking. Here comes a Fungals. Not going to connect. I think Disruptors to clear Spores is always a good play as well. This is something that's really underrated at the high level. And something that I don't quite do well enough. This is an insane army to control, by the way, here out of Classic. Just like everyone to be aware of that. You're working at like 5-6 hotkeys just controlling this army. It is extremely difficult. Oracle, Disruptor, Templar, Tempest, and main army all require separate functions. So yeah, it is really difficult to maneuver and so easy to forget and leave something behind. You see Serral's moving more as like a big unit here. I wonder how he does control this. He has probably 3 control groups for this. It's a big fungal. Keeping it simple, keeping it simple. Here we go. Here we go. This is the start of a fight. You're gonna see a massive parasitic bomb here connecting with a lot of those units. Mothership now being taken out. Is this going to be the trigger for Classic? Say, hey, this is not going well. Resources lost, still floating around that 20k, which is completely fine by Serral, by the way. Serral knows that if he just trades out, he's gonna have an army remaining and his opponent won't. All Serral needs to do right now is trade in a 1-to-1 ratio. He doesn't need to have better trades anymore. He's gonna get some okay trades probably, but he doesn't need it. Mothership needs to be rebuilt. Like I said, you can't fight without the Mothership. Just like Zerg can't fight without the Viper. The only tool that Zerg has against this Protoss army is the Viper. It's the most important tool. Fungals are good. They're important for catching the army, so you can engage with the Vipers. This is a mistake. This is a mistake here by Classic. This is a blunder. He's gonna lose 2 of those Tempests. He's gonna lose all of his Oracles if he ain't careful. Big Storms are connecting with those Corruptors though. Classic is getting impatient and he shouldn't be. He should wait for his Mothership and then start trying to fight. Why are we pretending like we can fight at this point? It is simply not possible. It is not possible right now in the current climate to fight. You need a Mothership. That's a good zoning storm. That was a very nice zoning storm. We both understand here what's kicking off, don't we, mate? We both understand what's kicking off. Or am I wrong? 50 Corruptors are out. That's a lot of Corruptors. There's 3 Vipers. If you can clear the energy on these Vipers, then you have an opportunity to attack. That is what you're aiming for. You're looking for Viper kills or Viper clears on the energy. This base, meanwhile, being taken out. So Serral is knocking on Classic Store, while at the same time mining the topside base. Changelings now being sent in en masse. Yeah, Classic has his mothership back right now. And I think this is his only chance. He needs to win a fight. And then he'll probably need to win another one. This is a 10k gas army coming out of Serral. Now, if you take a look at the bank that Serral has, he can almost completely rebuild the current army. Well, if you take a look at the bank of Classic, he's not even close to being capable of rebuilding his army. He's down 23k resources, and he has one chance. He doesn't just need to win this fight. He needs to destroy this fight, okay? This needs to be a one-sided victory here for Classic. Can he achieve that? I don't know. That is a bad start if you want to achieve a victory. That is a really bad start if you want to achieve a victory. Mothership's gonna get taken out. We get a split here, as once again, it is unbelievable, but Classic gets completely clowned on in these engagements every single time. Now Serral is confident enough to just start moving forward, picking up individual carriers. Now, what is the Viper count at? It's only one. It has 150 energy. Serral still needs to be careful. If you don't have Parasitic Bomb, carriers are completely broken. They're not just even a little bit. They're out of this world powerful. They're gonna sit on this army. And this army is not gonna be capable of standing up anymore, okay? Boom! Out of here, son. It's gonna be destruction on a different level. We now have this carrier force moving towards the top side of the map. I think Serral is very well aware of the predicament he's in. He's like, wait, my Vipers don't have energy. I need more than one Viper. A couple of Corruptors are being sent forward. That's a Tempest that will die. We'll need a Zoning Storm or two. This is why I think having a couple of Archons is usually useful. Classic agrees with me. He has these two Archons and he wants to kind of, you know, get in this army as well. He wants to add them in there. Into the force. As at this point, I mean, Classic still... He's only one thing that he can do, and that is destroy a fight. Just absolutely murder Serral in the next engagement that they're gonna get. And he'll need to wait for a mothership in order to do it. If he doesn't have a mothership, there's no way in hell that Classic is going to win. Classic, by the way, 200 army supply. 200 army supply. Between Classic and Serral. Serral only at 188 right now. What a noob. It's not even maxed out yet. Has these 10 drones that are patiently long distance mining away from the bottom side. What is it that Classic can do right now? Like, what are his options? I don't think he has many options. I don't think he has many options. He's gonna need to wait, sit back, do nothing. That is it. He can't play for a draw anymore. That ship has sailed. He just doesn't have enough money to rebuild stuff. These units, for example, that he's losing right now, because he's being baited. He's being baited. Serral's saying, hey, look at these Corruptors. Don't they look nice? Serral wants to trade out right now. If Serral can trade 5 Corruptors for a carrier, Serral's very happy with that. Because he can replace those Corruptors. And Classic can't replace those carriers. Absolutely cannot. So literally every trade at this point is good for Serral, as long as it's not in a big fight. He can lose a Viper. Yeah, a Viper for a Tempest. 3 Vipers for a Tempest. Yeah, that's fine. Just gonna make that final fight much easier. And the only way that Classic is winning is with a single big fight. Serral is aware of that. Serral is very aware of that. So he doesn't want that big fight. He wants many small fights. It's gonna hit. It's gonna take out a couple of Templar. This is exactly what Serral wants. Classic might think that he's doing a good job, but even if you kill every single Broodlord here, if you lose 5 Templar, that is a losing fight right now. Serral has so much wiggle room, and I think he's aware of it. He's very aware of it even. The Tempests have pretty much lost their value now, not because they're bad units, like they're still getting efficient trades probably, but because efficient trades aren't what you need. You need a strong fighting army that can one-shot your opponent. That is it. That is the only way you're winning. We see the Void Rays here in the back. Classic is going to be setting up for a massive battle here, and I don't think this battle is going to work out. Because so far, every single battle that he's tried to engage in has gone sideways. Not just a little bit, but pretty freaking terrible. And the resources lost, or the units lost, is a testament to that. 49k resources lost to 76,098. Now, I can't do math, but I think that is more than 25,000 right now. I truly do believe that. There's 5 Vipers here. You can see that with the increased Viper count, Serral really just wants an opportunity to kill anything. He can lose units for it. He just wants to trade out. He says, hey, that's fine. Like, there's literally no cash remaining. Even killing interceptors at this point is good for Serral. There are 0 probes and there's no money. That means that there's never going to be money anymore for Classic. Because he can't mine. He doesn't have enough cash for a single worker. Is he even maxed out on interceptors right now? Yes, he is. He's maxed out on interceptors. I mean, that's just gonna be it. We have 9 Archons. This is a good army. I almost feel like that Serral would need some more brutes. Yeah, he's going up to 12 because there's a lot of Archons down here. There are a lot of Archons down here. Lurkers are going to help, of course. Now, this feels like a stalemate scenario, but it really isn't. There's just no reason for Serral right now to do anything. He's still mining. He's getting better. He can lose creep. Creep doesn't cost anything. Something that I think Serral is lacking here is an infestor split. I've never understood why Zergs don't infestor split. It is very difficult to keep track of all infestors, but it's really easy if they keep them all in a single group, like right now. I think this is a bit of a blunder. Just having a single infestor somewhere else can be useful. Now this Viper army is going to move towards the side. Here we go. That's going to be 1 up. Oracle, that's free. That is absolutely free. Viper doesn't even die. These Tempest are going quite deep over here. You see that? You see that Classic is just getting impatient. He doesn't have the ability to stay, you know, and just push through this spore wall. That's what he needs to do first. If you can push through the spore wall, that could be a big deal. Because then the fight becomes a lot easier all of a sudden, right? You can push through the spore wall, that's a big deal. There's no energy on this Oracle. This is the last Oracle. Without an Oracle, you can't fight. Without these Tempests, you can't fight. What are we doing here? Oh, we're going in. Serral a bit far forward with his Brute Lords, though. Could be in a bit of trouble. Archons in the back, getting kited to death. Lurkers behind it, also dealing a lot of damage. Where are the Void Rays? They're coming in from very, very far away. Do we have any parasitic bombs remaining? They have to still be there. Coming in with a flank. Void Rays will dish out a lot of damage, but I don't think this is going to be enough. And even if it were to be enough, oh, in this particular fight, there's 24 more Corruptors where that came from. And the Brood Lords are still alive. Fungals are connecting. What is the interceptor count? There's going to be 27 interceptors against 27 Corruptors. That's not a very fair fight. The Corruptors move in. 24 more Corruptors on the way. Neural's hitting as well as Classic gets destroyed by Serral in an absolutely one-sided fight. And I understand why people wanted to see this game, but I thought this was going to be much closer, to be honest. For this to be the most required, I really thought it was going to be much closer. I think people might have gotten the wool pulled over their eyes by just seeing the cool double prism action. Don't get me wrong, that was very sweet, but also very inefficient. And that is the thing that mattered in the end. Look at here at this resources lost tab. We see 35k resources, indifference resources lost. And a lot of that has to do with Classic just throwing away units into a hive that didn't matter that much. At some point, you gotta stop looking at momentum and chaos as having any type of value. And you just gotta look at the hard numbers. And that's something that Classic did not do in this late game here on Grassland. Phenomenal play out of Serral. Truly one of a kind when it comes to the Zerg versus Protoss late game. There's no one quite like him. He's so solid at it. It is just phenomenal play, really. Does it again. As Serral does end up winning this game. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.